All right. So the NRG Shock, the team that got fifth, sixth in the region, and then fourth in the global tournament. Um, why did their comp work until it didn't? And you know, I'm gonna watch the Energy versus Ence, and then we're gonna watch Energy versus Toronto. I'm really not interested in the Energy versus Nightmare match that happened because Nightmare fell into the trap of Queen mirroring the off meta team, and they just got 3 out. So the matches of interest, Energy showed up and they played Sombra Queen when almost every other team was sticking really hard to these four with some flexibility between like Genji and Echo, right? But they were one of the only teams playing off meta. Really, the only other team to like try some off meta stuff was occasionally some teams against NRG, which doesn't really count. And Twisted Minds played a little bit of like a variation of the Malga comp, but they were still playing Malga at the end of the day. NRG was really the only team trying this. So how does this comp work in theory? Well, anytime you're thinking about a theoretical matchup between two comps, there's two important parts. There's the neutral, which is what we call a fight without ults, and there's the ult fight, which self-explanatorily is the fight with ults. You have to think, how does our interaction work in the neutral? How does our interaction change in the ult fight? Because pretty obviously, the ult fight is obvious in this comp, right? Copy, EMP, Queen ult, these are really strong, and these obviously are mirrored ults on both teams, right? So theoretically, EMP is not only strong, but it directly cancels these ults as well if you use them second, right? Queen ult is really difficult to outplay. Like Rally is kind of our only tool, maybe Cage. But if we hit Queen ult, one, this comp stacks all the time, so it's going to be super easy to hit a ton of people with it. It's going to be super easy to heal myself with it, right? So if we can reach the ult fight, that's obviously not the hard part of this comp. That's kind of what it's built around. So it becomes obvious that the neutral, if you think about it, is mostly about reaching the ult fight, farming ults, and making sure that we can live neutral engages and like live kind of like the neutral poke phase, maybe like wall pressuring point, depending on the map, while like reaching that without dying, without getting punished in that neutral, right? So we kind of want to play really slow, really second, and really baity in the neutral. Probably with our queen taking most of the aggro, right? If these people take too much aggro, they'll die. Maybe more importantly than dying even, they won't be able to farm their ults, right? I really want these people to just comfortably farm their ults as much as possible. And my queen will get it when he gets it, right? We kind of have to sacrifice that because there's nobody else that can take aggro for these people. Like, I really don't want my supports taking aggro, right? So I'm just going to have my queen, maybe my Sombra can take slight off angles, my Echo maybe a little bit more, right? But we're really not off-angling like that hard because we really want to be able to shoot people off of our queen, shoot people off of our Sombra, right? Make sure we can use that shout and just kind of hopefully go CD for CD and cycle until we get, the first ults of the game. I do want to say the cons of playing Ence's comp is that, yes, our neutral engage is really strong, but for a comp that normally farms ults really fast, we actually don't farm ults as fast as we normally would because Queen is way harder to farm ults off of. Queen, and obviously there's no Reaper in this comp, right? So NRG kind of has the benefits of playing against Malga comp, which is that ults are super farmable off of this comp, but Ence kind of doesn't get to utilize the same upside of the normal part of this meta, which is that, like, yeah, they're going to farm support ults as fast because they're taking the same amount of damage, but they're not doing really the same amount of damage. And if you look at this fight that I have pulled up here, which is the first fight we're going to look at, so this is just built copy. The support ults are pretty similar. Sky has a little bit of an edge here, but the DPS ults are really where the difference is starting to come in. Like, copy for half on both. EMP is going to come up before both of these. Like, this is a really big difference, and Kellen is ahead on this. So if this is mostly about living the neutral and getting to the ult fight, for Ence, it's about, punishing in the neutral and then hopefully winning the ult fight also, right? Because our ult fight is good, even though it's not as good as theirs. How do we make ult fights work against this team? The super, super, super important thing is understanding the way that turns work in this comp. Since things are kind of predetermined as far as who wants to go first and who wants to go second, there's kind of two approaches to Ence's side. There's really only one approach to NRG's side, which is to try and bait Ence to go in. And then when they do go in, we punish that engage. If we're Ence, there's two ways. We can take our first turn, a really hard engage. And when they bait that engage and they try to punish it, we can just let them back up and try and bait it. And then we can take it like a third turn, which is like a really soft reset. But it's a reset where we're just kind of resetting like our Malga pin and healing up again. And their big cooldowns that we forced on the first engage, we're going to go after that without those cooldowns on their side, right? We forced the ring out of them. We forced the queen shout out of them, right? And we saved our Malga shout. We saved our important things, or we have ults that are going to kind of make up for those differences on a third turn. And so we're playing for like, you know, we're not actually going first and winning off that first turn. Our first turn is just to force big stuff, get map control. Our third turn is to start cleaning stuff up, or maybe even like our fifth. You know, it depends on how deep into the ults we're going, how much map space we need to try and bait out of them, right? That kind of stuff. But you can kind of try and cycle that way, and like hold the engage over their heads until you've gotten enough out of it that it'll actually work, and they don't have enough resources left to bait. The other way to do it is just to use your first turn to completely overpower the enemy team. And that can work if you have a really good setup and if you have really good ults for it. The problem is that completely overpowering is really situational because of EMP and Queen ult. Those are two ults that really change the dynamic of everything entirely. Like Cage obviously is my best overpowering ult because you can't bait a cage if you can't walk out of it, right? So when EMP is on the field, obviously you really have to lean into that kind of you know, first turn, living, third turn kind of thing. Whereas if it's not, we can just cage anyone and kill anyone we want. We can Reaper, Juno combo, or we can start fights with Rally and that kind of thing. But we've gotten theoretical enough. I want to kind of look at some fights. So the first one here is a mistake from Ence. And I do want to clarify the first section of this match that I'm going to cover is Ence playing badly and what they did wrong and what they should have done better. They very, very often really overcommitted to their first turn. And without being able to overpower, right? So if you look at this turn here, Sky builds Juno ult first, and they instantly use Juno ult, but it's really obvious that NRG was playing to bait, right? Like any team would in this scenario. And if you look at this setup, the echoes here, the queen is touching point alone, but you can kind of see the supports are here. They're baiting properly, right? They watch my video or whatever. You need to abuse your neutral. Walk up, use your CDs if you have to. Use our Malga pin to do something like this, right? Like I want to pin to maybe an area like this where backline backs up and I clear their bait, right? And when I say clear, I mean like acknowledge that this team is baiting and make them honestly bait, right? They're not baiting from here. I'm going to threaten that engage, really like pump fake them, you know? Then they'll back up. Then I can 5-man shoot the queen. And if backline doesn't walk up for their queen, we will kill their queen, right? So they have to walk up or queen just has to leave, right? If queen leaves, I chase. If backline walks up, I kill them all here in this area, right? And that's my kind of third turn style where I'm playing for a mid-fight engage based on pump faking this bait, right? And clearing these people. You'll see here, they literally just popped Juno on the point for no reason. And NRG just leaves. And they do utilize this defensive Malga copy a lot. Scissors does this throughout. And this is actually like a really smart way to play this. Because even when you have all your ults, this is a really nice way to use copy. You just get to pop your E. Because like I said in my other video, I think it was the How Korea Solved Overwatch video, it's really hard to kite twice. If you kite this and then you try to full kite again, the Juno will chase you and they have enough chase that they will probably reach you eventually. So we need to kite, bait, and then stand our ground at around this corner. So this is really smart from NRG. But stand our ground here, they Malga copy, they E for the whole team, and they use their Juno ult second, and it's just too much, right? Maybe we didn't need that Queen ult, but this fight is very, very similar. Ence wants to go first. They have the Juno ult. The only difference here is that Ence is actually doing a little bit better in that they're setting up in a spot that's way better for just the overpowering strategy. If you want to just overpower and win off of your first turn, you have to pick the area of the map that is the hardest to bait in. And usually that's like spawn walk-up-ish areas, because the problem is if backline baits here, they're kiting themselves back into spawn and they're just completely out of the fight entirely, right? Whereas here, like on point, if you let the backline kind of bait here, they can bash back and still kind of retain LOS of everything that's going on. So this is good spot to engage. This is a good idea by Ence. The problem is, well, there's two problems. One, Kelix just walks up and bashes straight into the team in the Juno and just dies, right? Which is like not awesome. Even if you're going first, the people that are tradable still need to bait a little bit in the early fight and not just, you know, do ridiculous tradable, dieable things for no reason. And the other problem is that NRG is ready to just double match ults on this corner, right? So if you're playing the bait comp and you're retaking, you need to be ready in this type of area. You need to have the discipline to be ready to instantly like combo ults to this type of thing, because you can't really 1-for-1 your ults anymore. Previously, they've just used their Malga copy to live the Juno ults because the Juno ults are really kiteable. This Juno ult is not kiteable. This is actually the first good Juno ult of the game. from the inside. So now you need to double your ults. You need to just pop them, be willing to combo, be willing to go 2 for 1. It's totally fine to go 2 for 1 or even 3 for 1 in this situation. Because you really need this win. This is a devastating loss for you if you're NRG retaking, because this ult will snowball into ult charge building, and then they'll start to cycle the rest of the ults, and that's where you lose this matchup. So be ready to match those instantly. And they also map flip, which is really nice, and Calyx dies. Now, this fight, this is another like third turny-ish strategy. You're going to see Kevster starts this fight with Blade.
Ents have to know that Tree has a CMP, so you have to
right.
play around it.
And they actually take a decent neutral here, and this looks like a decent first turn, right? The problem is that we pop our E, we force the backline to kite, and then we back up with our own E as our Genji's blading, right? This was your first turn, was this neutral. They backed up. Now, all I have to do is just go in and swing, right? Keep these people zoned, give my Genji that E. He can reach for these people if he can, but if he doesn't, we just 5-man kill the queen, right? And that's how you win this fight, is dual win con. Either as we're walking up and I'm putting myself in between them, either backline keeps themselves safe and I kill the people that are in our space, or backline tries to bail these people out and I kill them instead. And it should be lose-lose, right? Now, I do want to also add an addendum. Addendum is kind of a nerdy-ass word, right? I want to add on that if you're the team approaching this, what you really want to do before rushing your first turn at all is you want to see what the setup looks like if they're baiting, right? Because if they had just taken some time instead of just blind ringing this corner, they would have seen that Rack is in a really punishable position here, right? Like we just swing and see how the backline's baiting. And if we can just take the time to just clear these people, we can probably just clear them with poke without even committing CDs in the first place. They'll have to bash back to here, and then we can use that really overpowering first turn kind of thing. And that would be even easier, right? But it's still definitely possible to make this neutral, use the blade to zone the back line, use our third turn to kill the queen kind of thing, like in this fight. And they're just really not making it work at all. But I want to talk about this fight from how NRG played well, because there are two sides to this fight. Yes, the Juno ult was really bad, but it was kind of Ence's fault and kind of NRG really playing a good bait. The thing here is that our backline, it doesn't actually have to walk up at all in this early part of the bait, because their backline can't really do anything either. And all we have to do is I need to look for ways to poke out the people that are trying to take aggro. Whoever is like the most in front, you would say, right, is we're developing multiple angles on these people. And this is what makes it hard to like bait, right? If these people want to play here until we touch point, I have to shoot whoever's doing this. And then eventually I will clear them, or they'll be really, really pressured to go first. I talked a lot in another video about, I think it was the same How Korea Solved Overwatch video, about we can bait and they can bait all day and everyone can want to go second and wait for that advantage and the whatever cooldown thing you're going to get. But if we're both baiting, nobody's winning, right? Maybe the team that has point is winning, right? But you're definitely not winning if you're NRG, if we're both baiting. So I need to bait while making them feel pressured to go first. And this is half of the battle, right? I talk a lot about positioning and specifically backline positioning, right? But this is the other half. If your backline is baiting correctly and your front line is not pressuring them to go first, then ultimately you're doing nothing, because your backline is just doing air, right? Like, so this is super important. If you watch, NRG is doing a really good job at making Ence feel like they have to go first, right? He's in everybody's faces. I'm sure Kellen is walking up right now. Tree is probably showing too, right? And Ence feels like they have to go right now or they'll lose. The Echo's going to get something. The Queen's going to get something, right? So this fight is a really good fight from Midtown, which was the second map of the series, I believe. Sorry, third map of the series. And this is a really beautiful setup. They won the first half of point, which is going to happen eventually. And what they do is my people that can handle taking lots of aggro are going to go set up in really, really hard to clear locations. And this is one of the most important things about playing the engaging comp. And I do want to be clear, I've referred to this comp as the engaging comp so far because they are that in the neutral. But in the ult fight, this comp can also form engages whenever they want to, right? Like, so they're looking for a mid-fight engage off of the CMP. So they've become the engaging comp now. And that's going to happen dynamically a lot in these matchups, especially when teams swap to counter you. So you kind of have to keep your head on that. But as a team that wants to engage in general, right? Whether our comp is better for it or we just want to do it because of the ults or whatever, what I want to do is I want to set up so that, one, my backliners are baiting and they're really hard to reach, right? That's obvious. But two, my people that are actually doing the engaging, usually my frontliners, are set up so that if they want to clear my frontliners out, they have to walk into the spot that is where I can engage on them, right? Or walk into a punishable spot. And if they don't do that, they won't be able to clear me, and I'll get to develop my angles even farther, and I'll eventually reach and punish people, right? And so this is the lose-lose if you're playing against the engaging comp, is that I can't go clear Scissors. I can't go clear Kellen, because if anyone walks into these spaces, they will die. That's the trigger for the engage, and that person gets punished, right? So now if I'm Ence, the only thing I can do here is I can 5-man clear the top left stairs as you're coming out, right? And not having the discipline to do that is what's going to get Kai traded here. And Scissors doesn't get this copy off, actually. So they do end up losing this fight. But I want to say, like, everything about this fight was successful and basically perfect, except for Scissors not pressing copy here when he needed to. And you can see how Kai, it's really, really difficult for him to do anything because he can't move up until the echo gets cleared, but nobody can clear the echo, right? So all we need to do is 5-man stack, go top left as our default, and then we clear that outside of the map in, and then Scissors we just kind of leave him semi-useless, right? He has to start to reach over here for value, and that's the best I can do. But NRG did a really good job of the setup. Even if Scissors hadn't gotten this, he would have caught one of the backliners as they're trying to walk with their Mauga, and he will get value here. So, good job by NRG. Now, that's it for the Ence map. To be honest, it was a really free match for them. Ence had no idea what to do. I want to start talking about Toronto. And this Toronto, the first map was Ilios. It was a lot of dive mirror. I don't want to cover that because nothing too crazy happened, to be honest. But Toronto came out on the second map on Zervasa with a counter comp. And their counter comp was Zarya. They started on Ashe Genji. They later swapped to Soj Genji. And on this map, they rolled out, I believe, Echo Sojourn, something like this. But the important thing here is that this is a hard counter comp to the Zarya comp. And if you think about it in the terms like earlier, where we're thinking about a neutral and then we're thinking about an ult fight, this comp's neutral can play really slow and also can play really fast. We can bubble the Genji in to pressure backliners or to pressure the hit scan. And then if we want to, we can just play slow for eventual Zarya charge, and our Zarya will carry a late fight with our Ashe poke, that kind of thing. And so it's really hard for the Queen team to play like a slow neutral into this, because if we play slow, the Zarya is going to build charge, and eventually the bubbled Genji is going to get something. And so I just don't want to do that, right? Like, the chance that my Queen is going to get value in a long late fight is just lower than the chance the Zarya is going to do that. So I kind of want to play fast neutrals. The problem is that DPS line they rolled out on is not good for fast neutrals. The answer they found is actually the perfect answer. Venture Genji. I don't know if they had this prep before time or if this was a mid-map swap. Whoever called this is exactly the correct answer, right? We need a faster neutral to beat this comp. In the old fights, this comp is really, really strong. Obviously, Grav is incredibly strong. These ults are the same as these ults, right? And these ults are pretty similar to these ults, to be honest. So it just comes down to whether the Queen ults or whether the Gravs get more value in this type of fight. With the extra, maybe, outplay ability that you can bubble people caught in Queen ult. And so it becomes a little bit harder to get Queen ult off. But it should be like a skill matchup in the ults. And it's a skill matchup once you make this move in the neutral. They lost the first point because they were hard counter comped. They make the swap. And then now we are playing engage comp in the neutral, and they're playing bait comp in the neutral. With a little bit of a difference that this is more of a hard like frontline and backline comp, whereas the Mauga comp is like more stacked. So what we're trying to do here, if we're NRG, is we're playing for dual win con again. I want to engage on backliners. That's the core of this comp, right? If my Genji, my Queen, and my Venture can reach these backliners, we will kill them. And we have lots of reach. We're very fast. It should be pretty easy for us. The problem is, good backliners are going to bait, and they're going to be hard to reach. And good frontliners will be slowing down your engage, trying to trade your own backliners and zone them off of you so they can't help you chase. And it becomes difficult. So we had to add another layer to this, which is if frontliners are getting in our way, we need to punish these frontliners first for being in our way while we are outside of the backline LOS because they're baiting, right? So what we can do is this kind of 5-man frontline punish style. While we do this, we force these bubbles out here. We make the Genji feel really pressured to like do his engage early while they're out of their own backline LOS. And then one of two things will happen. Either the backline will be baiting, And then that will allow us to punish these frontliners and zone them back. And then we can make our engage happen, right? Because as these people drop, as they back up to their own backline, my Venture can start to split, my Queen and Genji can start to split. We can form our pinches and we can punish these backliners, right? Or the backliners will feel pressure to walk up in the early phase of the fight to stop their frontliners from getting punished. And then we can actually make these reaches, right? Like right here and make this work. Now, the third scenario would be the frontline stays up as the backline baits, and then we just kill frontliners, right? You need to always be ready to do that. That is a mistake. We will see someone do it one time. So don't play too theoretically like, oh, we need to do this because Cap said this, whatever. Like, if frontliners stand in front of you and backliners bait, just kill the frontliners. Be ready to do that at all times because it'll happen more often than you think. But this fight is really, really high level from NRG. If you see this, there are 5 men walking up. Sugar Free feels really pressured to take this bubble. But if you see, they're really cleanly playing 5-man stacked in an area where the enemy backline, if they get root off, they're baiting, cannot contribute to this fight at all. Which means, yes, someone is giving a bubble to Sugar Free. Sugar Free's trying to get value. But this is just a 3v5 at best. So it's not going to do anything. So phase 1 is good. They go ring for ring top. Someone in Sugar Free have to drop after they don't get anything, right? And now is where the good part of the engage happens. Backline and Queen are going to drop the point with their Genji. The backline, NRG backline, is going to get a really strong, powerful position on point where they become really hard to trade and can contribute to chasing as far as the NRG frontliners want. Tree on Venture is going to form this pinch angle. Queen and Genji are going to pinch from main, and they're going to catch these backliners as the Zarya is kind of forced to back up to his own backline here, right? He develops this really nice angle. And this is just beautiful. Follow up here. This is all really, really great from NRG. Like, that was picture perfect. Everything about that fight from start to finish was good. And that makes the loss a little bit more painful. Let's watch this fight really quick here. What I said a second ago was that you always have to be ready in the early phase of the fight. We're 3-2-1ing those frontliners to punish them, essentially. And if a frontliner makes a mistake, be ready to just ditch the plan and kill them instead of reaching for backline at all in this type of fight. And that's what happens here, is that someone pops a bubble in front of their faces and they say, yo, what the fuck just happened? And they just walk into someone 5-man and just kill them, right? So even at the highest level this happens, and if you're not ready to do this, you won't win these type of fights, and that will suck for you. So be ready to do this. Now, this fight is where things start to go wrong for NRG. Or no, sorry, this is still a good fight from NRG. I'm getting the fights mixed up. This fight is really similar to the first engage they took, where they're kind of assessing where Toronto's backline is. Toronto has changed their backline setup from last time. Last time backline setup was main. This time they're top right. So now NRG says the way that we can punish the front line and kind of like draw them out of their own backline LOS is through main this time. If we go top right, the backline will have full LOS of everything that's happening. It'll be really hard. This way it becomes really uncomfortable for the Brig. The Brig has to drop to kind of get anything, and he doesn't want to do that. So they go main, really good decision. They take this long, prolonged fight where they're not rushing anything, even though they're the engaged comp, right? And I want to stress this too, because you are the fast comp, you don't need to go as soon as you see them, right? Fast is acceleration. It's 0 to 100 when our trigger happens. Fast is not a speed. We're not going 100 all the time. We're 0 and then we're 100 when we want to be, you know? And so Sugar Free is really pressured to do something, right? Because he's been doing nothing for a long time. They live this bubble engage really cleanly. Now we're walking forward, right? Someone only has one bubble. He can't drop. Sugar Free just uses cooldowns. He can't do anything. Someone drops anyways. So now we have 2 win cons. We could just kill someone if we wanted, right? Or I can reach for the backliners here. He chooses to reach for backliners because they're really reachable, and he kills root ball, right? So everything about this fight start to finish is just as clean as the first engage, and it's really great from NRG to see this. Like, this is really high level. If they had been able to keep it to this understanding, they would have been able to beat Toronto in this matchup. I firmly believe that. Like, looking at this, Toronto's comp was not the answer. What happens in the next couple fights was Toronto's answer, and unfortunately it's just the tank ults. If you watch this, the way that you have to play, if any of you watch my videos, as you're retaking, is there's a corner here. This is the corner the defending team is going to play, and you need to be as far off of it as possible, because what's going to happen is if you're playing close to the corner, like you're about to see these people walk up, they will just turn the corner and kill you with their ults, and there's no counterplay if you're doing this. There is counterplay the farther off you get off the corner. I want you to imagine a scenario where they're off the corner here, maybe one of the DPS is splitting this way for, you know, like if you need to touch or if you want to form an angle or something, right? But in this fight, we can kind of just do this, bait this grav. Someone is forced to kind of grab this wall or something, right? And then we're able to just pop a rally. We're able to pop a ventral. And this chase is really hard for these people. There becomes outplayability. If we walk up, like you're going to see in a second here, and we get grabbed on this corner, what's the counterplay? Unfortunately, the answer is nothing. And you're all going to die. And without counterplay in this fight, it doesn't matter how well you play the engages because it's over, right? And this is really what hurt NRG was this. They really, really struggled to outplay grab fights with like poor corner understanding. And they also did not get value out of Queen ult, right? Which is the other problem. So in this fight you're about to watch, they walk up, they're taking their neutral here. They're pressuring that Zarya, right? And they forced a bubble here on Merit, right? Which is what we were looking for, right? We're taking this first part of the neutral to force those frontline CDs so that we can reach the backline, or we can make the backline zone themselves out of the fight, and then we can punish the frontline afterwards. The problem is they force this bubble, and then Kellen just Queen ults the solo bubbled Cass. And hits nobody with this Queen ult. And there's so many ways to win this fight after this happens. The neutral was good. You can see it on Kellen's face that he knows he just lost the map for his team, right? We force this bubble, and then I Queen ult the backliners that are right in front of me. Or I Queen ult the Zarya, and I force the Zarya bubble on herself maybe, and I can kill the Zarya. Or I just wait for the bubble to be down and I kill the cat. There's so many things you can do here, right? But he literally just whiffed a Queen ult, a zero-man Queen ult. Inexcusable. And that's two fights where we have really, really done everything wrong. And that hurts me because there are two fights where they did everything right. That level of like engagement, I don't see from any NA team, not even Toronto, right? Like no team does that well. Whoever on NRG is doing that for this team, I don't know if it's the coaching, I don't know if it's one of the players is leading this. That player knows what they're doing and is being sabotaged by the way this team plays corners on retakes and the way that Kellen is Queen ulting. Now, luckily, Toronto has decided that if Kellen can make fight losing mistakes, then we can make some fight losing mistakes. And Vega has decided to retake in front of his Zarya, right? So this is a free kill, and Kellen walks up. Right, they see this positioning. Kellen gets a nice knife. Vega gets bubbled, but he's still dead, right? So the problem here, we've been donated a pick by the Vega Foundation. The problem here is that there's Grav. This fight is really, really turnable for Toronto. So what do I need to do? Drop in the comments below. I'm going to say it right now. There's a corner. It's not on my screen. It's like right here to the bottom left, right? This is really this like little cubby thing. This is the corner that we're playing. And if I'm off of it as the backline, where am I? Well, unfortunately, the place that I was is right here, directly on top of the corner. I get grabbed once again instead of being off this corner, and I die, right? Where do I need to be? I need to be right here, right? Where they are at the start of the fight. This is off the corner. I need to do this. I need to maintain this. I need to not get baited into walking up after that pick. And I need to be hard to trade. I need to be hard to grab. Imagine this grab, right? I'm hard to reach. You're trading past my queen. My queen's trading your backliners. This fight gets messy. But a messy fight is the best that we can hope for against 3 ults when we have 0, right? And that would have been winnable for them, right? But it's just another grab fight they really failed to outplay. And then we're going to see another Queen ult that doesn't get any value, right? The problem here, and this is kind of a combination of both, in this type of fight where we really want a Queen ult, and that's like our main value, there's 2 ways to play it. Either we start with our blade early, we make them grab the blade, he lives or he doesn't, I don't even care, right? I will Queen ult after that and I will kill everybody. And that's fine. We can trade Scissors Blade and even his life for that if we need to. Or the maybe safer way to play it is we make someone touch point, we hard 5-man shoot the person who gets touches point, so they have to get bubbled, and then after that bubble we can walk up and we can look for a Queen ult. The problem is that you're gonna have to outplay this grab at some point, right? So the same problem as before is gonna come into play. And you especially can't afford your queen to get grabbed. Your Genji needs to take some aggro. Your Tracer needs to take some aggro. Maybe even your backline needs to take a little bit of extra aggro, right? Like if my backline, if Rat gets grabbed here, as long as he's not directly on top of the corner, my queen will just get an ult and carry, right? So the problem is someone touches point, and I want you to pay attention to his health bar here. He starts the fight at 476 health, and let's see how much damage he takes from the 5 people that are shooting him to force this bubble. So unfortunately, someone has gained health with magical healing bullets from NRG Shock, and has taken no damage. So this bubble doesn't get forced in the early fight, and someone just decides to walk in and grab the win con, and the game is over, right? So that's really unfortunate. You need to either go early outside with your blade and just make him grab the blade, or, you know, like I said earlier, like you can play that slow baiting neutral, but your queen does not get to take the aggro in that type of fight. He needs to play selfishly for himself. Finally, we're going to watch one more fight of NRG playing poorly in this matchup. And again, it's failing to be off the corner. If you look at their setup here, they kind of want to do the same thing where they want to make Toronto touch, hopefully force that bubble, get this mid-fight queen ult after the bubbles, and start to kill people, right? Should be easy. The problem is if you see the way they're set up, where are we? We're on the corner, right? Which means what's going to happen is Vega is going to walk in. He's going to say, wait, why are 5 people on this fucking corner? And he's going to pop rally and bash everybody. And and now it's going to be hard, right? Kellen really feels pressure to do something. And he ends up reaching for this kind of weird queen ult on these people. And he hits one. They're going to kill RuPaul, but now we're kind of in weird tradable positions, and it's just not going to go well, right? The rally doesn't get much value, right? All you have to do in this type of fight, and I promise I'll be done saying it after this, is get off of this fucking corner, please. Put my queen here. Now who's touching? Zarya's touching, Genji's touching. This person is getting shot. You can't ever clear the outside without getting a bubble forced and a 5-man queen ult, right? And you can't touch point without getting a bubble forced, right? So it's lose-lose for Toronto. Make them lose-lose. They'll have to start with OC to even get point flip, right? And that's fine. You get an ult for a point flip, we can retouch, we can force the bubbles that way, right? Whatever. But they're not making them work for it at all. They don't know how to play corners. But I don't want to be too negative about NRG. I do think I started the video off kind of inflammatorily saying they got 5th, 6th in the region, which they did. They were really terrible at that Orisa meta. But they came into their own style here. They were really good at this style, at least at some parts of it. And they were just a couple bad ults and a couple bad outplaying ults fights away from being really competitive with Toronto, which is Toronto's the uncontested #1 North American team. With just a little bit of upgrades, they could have, you know, they could have really shocked the world here. Like actually, like obviously 4th was a shock, but like imagine if they came into this match and they beat Toronto. Like, yeah, anyways, I rambled enough. This video is a little longer than my other ones, but I will see you guys later.